You know, there are moments in life that just sneak up on you. They hit you in a way you didn't see coming. It's not planned. It's not on your schedule. It's not something you even thought would happen. And yet, there you are, standing in the middle of it, feeling like you've just been dropped into someone else's reality. That's exactly what happened to me the other day. I wasn't looking for anything profound. I wasn't sitting there thinking, today, I'm going to have some life-changing experience. No, I was just in this random spot, this quiet area, killing time between a couple of meetings. And I hear this sound, not music, not a regular conversation, not even something I could put my finger on at first. It was rhythmic, almost hypnotic. It had this rise and fall to it, like the ocean breathing. I follow the sound and I see them, a group of people gathered together, moving in unison, bowing, standing, kneeling, and then I realize they're praying. Muslims doing Salah, the real thing, not something from a movie, not a clip on YouTube, not a headline in the news. Right there in front of me, this quiet, disciplined, ancient thing was happening. And here's the thing, it stopped me dead in my tracks. Because you hear about it, right? You see images here and there, but there's something different when you're actually in the room, breathing the same air. You feel the energy shift. Every single person in that room was synced perfectly. No phones, no distractions, no hey, what's next on the to-do list, none of that noise. Just full, absolute commitment to the act they were doing. And it hit me. When's the last time I did anything with that much focus? There's this misconception floating around, this lazy idea people have when they've never seen it up close, that it's just some ritual, just mechanical movement. But standing there, you could feel that it was more than that. It was almost like they'd stepped out of the regular world for a few minutes. They weren't in the same reality as me anymore, and as I'm watching, I noticed something else. It wasn't performance. They weren't doing it for an audience. If anything, the fact that I was even looking felt irrelevant to them. They were locked in, I mean locked in, and in a world where everyone's chasing likes and attention and approval, that's rare. The sound, the movement, the pauses, there was this pattern to it. It was deliberate but not rushed. Like every second mattered, and the crazy part, even though I didn't know the exact words, the meaning was clear. This was devotion, not a show of devotion, devotion itself. And that's when it started hitting me. This wasn't just about religion, it was about discipline, about carving out time from the chaos of life to realign yourself, 5 times a day, every day, without fail. That's not casual, that's commitment on a level most people never touch. And I'll be real with you, in that moment, it felt humbling. Not in a shameful way, but in a man, I've got work to do kind of way. Because here I was, a guy who can barely remember to meditate for 5 minutes without checking my phone, and these people were locking into something much deeper, several times a day, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. There was also this strange calm that came over the room. The air felt heavy, but in a good way. Like when you walk into a place that's been around for hundreds of years, and you can almost feel the history in the walls. It was like that, but this was happening in real time, right in front of me. The more I watched, the more it hit me that this wasn't just a religious thing. It was human. Deeply human. It was about connection, not just to something bigger than yourself, but to the people next to you. Standing shoulder to shoulder, no one higher, no one lower, all equal in that moment. And when it ended, they didn't make a big show of it. No clapping, no speeches, no announcements. Just this quiet, seamless return to normal life. Like they'd just touched base with something important and were ready to step back into the noise. But here's the thing, once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. You can't just go back to scrolling Instagram like nothing happened. It sticks with you. And that's where the real shift started for me. Because watching that scene wasn't the end of the story, it was the spark. The kind of spark that makes you start asking yourself questions, big questions. And if you've ever gone down that road, you know it doesn't stop with just one. That's when I realized I had to dig deeper. That night, I couldn't shake it. I went home, sat on the couch, and just stared at the wall for a while. The TV was on, but I wasn't watching it. My phone buzzed a couple of times. I ignored it. Something about what I saw earlier had taken up all the bandwidth in my brain. It wasn't just curiosity, it was this pull. Like, hey man, you just got a glimpse of something real, and now you're not allowed to just walk away. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized in a world where everything is instant and disposable, I had stumbled into something timeless. I kept replaying it in my head, the stillness, the unity, the way everyone in that room moved as if they were all connected to the same invisible thread. I've been in gyms with elite fighters. I've been in military training environments. I've seen synchronized drills, but this was different. This wasn't just coordination, it was intention, so I started digging. I'm talking about late, night rabbit holes, the kind where you look at the clock and realize it's 3 a.m. and you haven't moved in hours. I wanted to know what this Salah actually was beyond just a prayer. And man, the more I learned, the more it blew my mind. It's not just about words, it's an entire system. There's a structure to it, physical positions, specific timings, exact phrases, even the direction you face. And none of it is random. Every piece is connected to something bigger. The bowing, that's not just stretching your back. It's a gesture of humility, literally lowering yourself before God. The standing, that's presenting yourself with focus and respect. The kneeling, the touching your forehead to the ground, that's ultimate surrender. It's like each movement is its own language, and together they form this conversation between the human and the divine. And here's the part that really hit me. They do it 5 times a day, not once a week, not whenever I feel like it, every single day, morning, midday, afternoon, evening, night. That's a rhythm most of us don't even have for brushing our teeth. Think about what that does to a person. You're essentially pressing pause on life 5 times a day to recalibrate your mind and spirit. It's not just a spiritual reset, it's a discipline reset. Imagine if you had to stop what you were doing, no matter where you were, and remind yourself of your values, your goals, your humility, and your gratitude. That would change you, no question, and the more I learned, the more I realized this wasn't just for religious people. This was a blueprint for focus. Athletes talk about flow state, business leaders talk about morning routines, scientists talk about meditation benefits. Muslims have been living a form of all of that for over 400 years. Another thing that hit me, this wasn't just private, it was communal. You can do it alone, sure, but the preferred way is together. Standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers, literally eliminating the gap between you. And that means a king could be praying next to a guy who cleans streets, same line, same space, no difference. And I started thinking about how rare that is. We live in a world obsessed with hierarchy, with separation, with who's above, who. But in that prayer, all of that melts away. You're not your job title, your bank balance, your social media following. You're just another soul turning towards something bigger. That realization kept me up at night. Because if there's one thing I've noticed in life, it's that the people who seem truly grounded, not fake calm, not Instagram calm, but real, they've usually got something like this anchoring them. And this seemed like an anchor forged in steel. But here's the twist. the more fascinated I got, the more I started noticing my own resistance. I'd think, yeah, this is incredible, and then immediately find my mind making excuses. I'm too busy. I'm not that kind of person. I don't have the background for this. And that's when it hit me, we all do that. We see something powerful, something that could make us better, and our first instinct is to back away because deep down we know it would require change. And that's when the thought lodged itself in my brain. What would actually happen if I tried this? That question sat in my mind like a ticking clock. And it wasn't just about the religion itself, it was about the discipline, the mindset, the practice. Could I even stick with something like that? Would it break me? Or would it build me into something I couldn't become otherwise? And once a question like that takes root, there's no one asking it. The next step was obvious, but I knew it wasn't going to be comfortable. The thing about curiosity is, if you let it sit for too long, it starts to itch. And once it starts itching, you either scratch it, or you spend the rest of your life wondering what would have happened if you had. That's exactly where I was. This wasn't just an idea in my head anymore. It was a weight in my chest. I could feel it when I woke up, when I was driving, when I was halfway through a workout. My mind kept going back to that scene, the stillness, the unity, the focus, and this little voice in the back of my head whispering, "You have to try this." But here's the thing, it's one thing to admire something from a distance. It's another to step into it yourself. That's where all the insecurities show up. I didn't know the words, I didn't know the movements. I didn't know if I'd look ridiculous. And in my world, I'm used to being competent. You drop me in a gym, I know what I'm doing. You put me in a studio, I know how to hold a conversation. But this was completely foreign territory. Still, the itch was louder than the fear. So I reached out to a friend of a friend, a guy who actually practices. I told him, look, I want to understand this for real, not just from YouTube videos or articles. I want to be there. And to his credit, he didn't try to sell me on anything. He just said, all right, come by the mosque tomorrow around noon. Now, let me tell you something, walking into that building for the first time was like stepping into another world. The outside looked simple, brick, clean, nothing flashy. But the moment you walk in, you feel the shift. Shoes off at the entrance, carpet under your feet. This subtle scent in the air, clean, almost sweet, like cedar or something floral. And then the silence, not the awkward kind, the good kind, the kind that tells you you're in a place where noise doesn't get to lead. I stood there watching people trickle in. They weren't rushing, they weren't distracted. Each person had this calm about them, like they'd left the chaos of life at the door. Some sat quietly, some whispered greetings to each other, some began the prayer on their own, and then it began. There was a call, the adhan, and I swear, even though I didn't understand the words, it hit me like a wave. The sound wasn't just loud, it was present. It filled the room without overpowering it. It was an invitation and a command at the same time. We lined up, shoulder to shoulder, no space in between. My friend guided me through the positions quietly: stand, bow, kneel, touch the forehead to the ground. And here's the thing, I thought it would feel awkward, mechanical, maybe even uncomfortable, but the second my forehead touched the floor, something shifted. It's hard to explain without sounding dramatic, but there's a kind of vulnerability in that posture that you don't experience in normal life. You're literally in the lowest position a human body can take, face to the ground, hands open, nothing to hide behind. And in that moment, even though I was surrounded by strangers, I felt a strange sense of safety. Like this was the one place where lowering yourself didn't mean losing anything. It meant gaining something. The prayer went on, flowing through the positions: stand, bow, kneel, repeat. Each movement was anchored to words, and even though I didn't know them, the rhythm made sense. My breathing slowed. My mind, which is usually racing in 1,000 directions, started to line up with the pace of the room. And here's what really threw me: the time just disappeared. It wasn't long, maybe 10 minutes total, but it felt outside of time. Like we stepped into a pocket of the day that didn't belong to the regular clock. When it ended, everyone just broke away. Some stayed sitting, others left. No ceremony, no long speeches. Just like the first time I'd seen it, it was a return to life, but now I wasn't on the outside looking in. I'd been in it. Walking out of there, I felt different, not in a "my life has changed forever" way, but in a "something just got rearranged inside me" way. And I kept thinking, no wonder they do this 5 times a day. It's like having a reset button for your brain and soul, and not just when you feel like it, but on a schedule. That's the real magic. You don't wait until you're overwhelmed to reset. You build resets into your day so you don't get overwhelmed in the first place. But that also made me realize something else. This wasn't a one and done experience. You don't understand something like this by trying it once. You have to live with it, see how it changes you over time, and that's when the real test began. The first time was powerful, no doubt about it. But the real weight of something like Salah doesn't show up on day one. Day one is novelty, it's new, it's exciting because it's different. The real question is what happens when the excitement wears off, when it becomes just the thing you do every day. That's when discipline steps in. The first week was easy to romanticize. I'd wake up and think, all right, here we go, let's see what happens today. Every prayer was an event, but then came the second week, and that's when the friction started. It wasn't the prayer itself, it was the interruptions to my day. I'd be in the middle of writing something or workout or halfway through a podcast, and that little voice in my head would go, "You have to stop now." And stopping is hard. We're not built for it anymore. We're trained to keep pushing, keep scrolling, keep doing. At first I resisted. I'd tell myself, I'll just do it in 10 minutes. But the structure doesn't work like that. Salah isn't whenever you get around to it. It's anchored to specific windows in the day. Miss it and it's gone. And something about that forced me to respect it more. It was non-negotiable. You can't move the mountain to fit your schedule. You move yourself to meet the mountain. By week 3, something interesting started to happen. My brain began to anticipate it. I'd be in the middle of a task, and instead of feeling annoyed at having to stop, I'd start naturally winding down before the time came. Almost like my body clock was syncing up to the rhythm, and that rhythm was bleeding into everything else. I was sleeping better, eating slower, listening more intently when people talked. It's not like I was trying to be more mindful, it's just that 5 times a day, I was practicing stepping out of autopilot. That habit was leaking into the other 19 hours, and here's something I didn't expect. The mental battles I fought during prayer were revealing things about myself I'd never noticed. I'd catch my mind wandering to emails, to workouts, to random thoughts, and then I'd have to pull it back. That tug-of-war happened every time, and slowly, I started realizing just how little control I normally had over my attention. Salah was basically holding up a mirror and saying, "Look at this. Look at how restless you are. Look at how quickly you chase distractions." And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Physically, it was doing something too. The bowing, kneeling, and standing, it's not a workout, but it engages your body in a way that's grounding. It's hard to be disconnected from your body when you're moving it with intention multiple times a day. It was like this quiet, subtle physical meditation layered on top of the mental one. But maybe the most surprising part was the community effect. Even when I prayed alone, I never felt alone, because I knew right at that exact moment millions of other people all over the world were doing the exact same thing. Same movements, same words, same direction, different continents, different languages, same act. That thought hit me like a tidal wave one day. I started to understand why this practice survives centuries without fading. It's not just personal discipline, it's collective discipline. And when you tap into that, you start to feel like you're part of something much bigger than your own little story. By the end of the first month, my relationship with time had shifted. The day no longer felt like a long stretch of chaos I had to survive. It felt like it had structure, like there were pillars holding it up, and Salah was those pillars. Everything else happened in the spaces between. But that's also when I started noticing the deeper change, the one I didn't see coming. I'd gone into this thinking I was just going to try it out, maybe learn something about discipline. What I didn't expect was that it would start changing how I saw everything. And the more it changed me, the more I realized I wasn't in control of this process anymore. It was in control of me.